To save up for my pregnant girlfriend's dowry, I worked tirelessly delivering takeout, exhausting myself. Just as I finished my last order, I spotted a lavish auction haul. My fragile, innocent girlfriend was dressed in a stunning gown, tears streaming down her face, clutching a man tightly. She struggled fiercely, screaming, "Thaddeus Harrington, get away from her. I will only marry Alaric Underwood." The sound of my girlfriend's terrified and humiliated screams echoed through the private room. I couldn't control myself anymore and proposed to her on the spot, wanting to express my feelings. But Serafina Whitlock just sneered, turned her head away, and threw herself into Thaddeus' arms, laughing. "Thaddeus, I won." I stupidly asked her why this was happening. The auction catalog fluttered in front of me, mocking me. "I could buy any of these items and support your entire family for generations. Why are you even asking me?" I glanced at her and sat back down in the empty front row seat. All the auction items must be thoroughly reviewed. He's just a delivery guy with no money. How could he afford these items? Choose me instead. Whatever you want, I can buy it for you. Thaddeus smiled teasingly and gently lifted Serafina's chin with his finger. "You want to break up with him? Huh?" Serafina's face turned red, and she slapped Thaddeus across the face. "So what? I like him, even if he's poor." My heart suddenly began to race. My girlfriend Serafina and I are both ordinary workers. We've never had the chance to interact with wealthy people. How could she be connected to the Harrington family's young master? Unpleasant images flashed through my mind. So I clenched the takeout bag in my hand and forced a flattering smile. "Sir, the takeout for room 102 is ready. Can I deliver it inside?" Two well-dressed burly men stood outside the private room, wearing sunglasses. They glanced at me disdainfully. "You think the people inside would order a bowl of cold noodles for $8? I've seen too many people like you trying to climb the social ladder. Take a look at yourself first. Stop talking and get out of here." It seemed like she heard the voices outside, and her tone immediately turned sad. "Thaddeus, I'm pregnant. Once Alaric saves enough for the dowry, we can get married." Thaddeus sneered. "Dowry? A poor guy who doesn't even make $10,000 a month. What could he possibly give you?" "I could give you 10 times that. Is that money really yours? Without your dad, would you even have any of this? What makes you better than him?" The words stopped abruptly, followed by breaths that left one's imagination running wild. Then came the woman's screams, "You bastard!" Hearing my girlfriend being bullied by another man, I couldn't stay silent any longer. I couldn't hold back anymore, my eyes bloodshot, wanting to charge forward. The bodyguard suddenly stepped aside. I felt a surge of anger, not thinking about anything else, and kicked the door open with all my strength. Inside the room sat a group of young playboys. My girlfriend Serafina had a flushed face, tears in her eyes, and was tightly embraced by Thaddeus. Seeing me, a flash of panic crossed her eyes. "Alaric, why are you here?" I'm not what you think." I struggled to control my anger and comforted her gently. "Serafina, don't worry. Everything will be okay." After speaking, she looked around tearfully and clenched her teeth, saying to me, "Alaric, they're bullying me. We're going to get married, okay?" The expressions of those around us varied, but their eyes all betrayed excitement. Thaddeus puffed on his cigarette, exhaling a smoke ring, and laughed. "Kid, you heard that, right? I'm warning you not to compete with me over women. Those $250 are a reward for you." The cold noodles were covered in oil. It turned out that the high tip of $250 was intentionally left by Thaddeus to humiliate me. But it didn't matter what he did. Serafina only loved me in her heart. I took out the Margaret gemstone ring I had bought at a high price from abroad and knelt down on one knee. Looking at her deeply, I said, "Serafina, this is the surprise I prepared for you. Will you marry me?" Serafina's eyes were filled with emotion as she walked toward me in a daze. I was also deeply moved. It was time for me to tell her who I really was. Actually, but before I could finish, Serafina suddenly knocked the ring out of my hand. She gave me a disdainful smile. This plastic ring is supposed to impress me." She finished speaking and excitedly threw herself into Thaddeus's arms, her face beaming with joy. "Thaddeus, I won this round." Thaddeus shook his head helplessly, gently supporting her waist. "Since that's the case, I'll concede. The land is yours." The young master in the private room swirled his wine glass and flattered Serafina. "Thank you, young master. I never expected to lose to you here. You truly are the most outstanding heir of the Whitlock family." My heart felt like it was being pierced by needles, pain and sorrow welling up inside me. The sound of buzzing filled my ears and words seemed stuck in my throat. It took me a while to find my voice. "The Whitlock family's young lady. You said you were just drifting around like me, didn't you?" Just then, someone glanced at me disdainfully and interrupted loudly. Back then, Serafina and Thaddeus both had their eyes on a piece of land. "Coincidentally, you were delivering food and got into a car accident, so they made a bet. If you could get someone in your financial situation to propose to you within 3 months, Serafina would win. You don't really think anyone would refuse Thaddeus's offer without expecting anything in return, do you? This isn't a novel, ha ha ha. You really don't know your place. If Serafina hadn't let you in, you'd never have been able to attend this auction actually. That car accident was deliberately arranged by her. It was just because I accidentally stumbled into their high society gamble. So all her kindness and love were just an act. And even today's proposal was a prearranged performance." Serafina sat up high, like a fairy not of this world. But this morning she was still like a timid little kitten, rubbing against my palm and shyly whispering in my ear that she'd love me forever. Everything seemed so real. I couldn't believe it was all a lie. I struggled to hold back my tears and asked Serafina, "Is all of this really fake? You were forced to do this?" I thought of the prenatal report I had been carrying with me, and my eyes lit up. I immediately pulled out the document. "You're still carrying my child. Aren't you? You love me, don't you? Let's stay together. Believe me, I can give you the life you want." Before I could finish, Thaddeus impatiently interrupted. "You're just a delivery guy. How could you possibly give the heir of the Whitlock family the life he wants? Can you even do that?" Everyone burst into laughter. "This guy is still dreaming. How could you marry the Whitlock family's daughter and make her live in such a small place with you?" I ignored these words and just stared blankly at Serafina. There was a hint of emotion in her eyes, just like before. She still trusted me. "Alaric, is that really true?" My heart was filled with joy. "Is it really true?" "Serafina, believe me." But before long, a mocking expression flashed across Serafina's eyes. She tilted her chin slightly and said, "Alaric, you're so naive. You believed that fake identity and that receipt. You're just playing with me like a dog. You actually believed that fake identity and that receipt. However, the list was indeed real, but a glimmer of hope flashed in my eyes." Serafina covered her mouth and laughed unkindly. "The child isn't yours, you know. I was just playing with someone like you, and you actually took it seriously. You're such a disappointment." The last shred of emotion vanished completely. Why did this happen? In response, an auction catalog was thrown at me. "I'll just buy an item from this catalog. You couldn't earn that in a lifetime. You really need to ask." "Bodyguards, the auction is about to begin. Get this man out of here." As soon as Serafina finished speaking, the bodyguards outside immediately moved. I glanced at her briefly before sitting down at seat 101, which had been empty all along. All the auction items were set ablaze. The private room fell slightly quiet. Then everyone burst into laughter. Some even laughed until tears streamed down their faces. "This is hilarious. Lighting sky lanterns. This is just from reading too many tomb raiding novels. Ha 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 ha, oh my. I'm laughing so hard my stomach hurts. This person really values face. He didn't even buy an auction ticket and still wants to light sky lanterns. Does he even know if he deserves it? Serafina, go stop him. Otherwise, this ex-boyfriend is going to get kicked out." Serafina also felt embarrassed. Her face turned red and she scolded me angrily. Alaric, this isn't a place for you to cause trouble. You need an entry ticket to light sky lanterns. An entry ticket costs over $1 million. You couldn't earn that much even if you worked your entire life. I didn't show any emotion and continued wearing my red delivery uniform. Ha ha, just a few million. I earn more than that in a day. Serafina saw that I wasn't swayed and snorted coldly. Today is the most important national auction in 5 years. Everyone here is a millionaire. Don't try to impress me. Finally, a hint of worry flashed in my eyes. If you don't want to lose face, you can still leave now. I looked at Serafina seriously. I said I want to light a sky lantern. Thaddeus noticed Serafina's unusual attitude, angrily extinguishing his cigarette. Why waste time talking to this person? Just tell him to leave. Serafina gave him a look. The bodyguards came over again to pull me away. Hurry up and get down there. You're just a delivery person. Don't cause trouble. But suddenly, a loud explosion startled everyone. A group of fully armed guards rushed in from all sides of the private room, surrounding everyone. When Serafina heard the sound, her face turned pale and her voice trembled. Alaric, how dare you touch that bell? You rang it and now I can't help you. Thaddeus immediately tensed up, sat up straight and said seriously, Serafina, this guy is in trouble. The heads of the 4 major families will be here soon. If your uncle and aunt find out you messed things up at the auction, you'll definitely be punished. Everyone in the room fell silent, but I remained calm, even resting my feet on the table. What's the big deal about ringing the bell? Isn't that what you're supposed to do when lighting the sky lanterns? I was just following the rules. Serafina clenched her teeth, tears welling up in her eyes. Let's go, Alaric. This was my fault for dragging you into this. He stepped forward and grabbed my arm. Thaddeus watched Serafina's actions, a flash of jealousy crossing his eyes. Serafina, why do you care about him? He's just an ordinary person. It doesn't matter if he's dead. I looked at Serafina with a complicated expression. Doesn't she think I'm not as good as her? But soon, a voice interrupted my thoughts. Who dares to cause trouble on my territory? A woman in a red cheongsam walked in and said sternly, Serafina, those who light the sky lanterns are honored guests. You must not be rude. Hearing her words, Serafina reluctantly let go of my arm and stepped back. The woman then examined my attire, sighed in relief, and then sneered. Those who light the sky lanterns must ring the bell 3 times. No one has dared to light the sky lanterns here in 8 years. Are you intentionally causing trouble? I nodded thoughtfully. It seems the rules have changed after 8 years without lighting the sky lanterns. Then I'll follow your rules today, I said, then raised my hand and shook the bell rope. Is that okay? Can we start now? Everyone froze. The woman's expression twisted for a moment, but she couldn't help but laugh. Watch your words. There's no need to argue with someone like you. Someone, check the funds. I took out a bank card from my pocket and handed it over. As soon as everyone saw the card, their eyes immediately filled with disdain. Who would have thought someone would bring a bank card? It's laughable. I bet there's only a few thousand in there. But then, with a beep, everyone's eyes widened. There was a 7-digit number on the screen. Ha ha ha, this is hilarious. It's not even enough to buy an entry ticket. The woman in the red cheongsam sneered. Sir, this amount is only enough to cover the starting bid for our first item. Lighting the sky lantern requires at least a fortune of over 100 million. I rested my chin on my hand and nodded. That's right. I don't usually carry much cash. I only brought this card, which is enough for the entrance fee. The cost of lighting the sky lantern will be charged to my account. Don't worry. I won't forget to pay you back. Serafina clenched her fists, her face turning pale, and she wanted to step forward to defend me. I sold Sinclair. He didn't come here to ruin your plans. He's doing this for me. Seeing Serafina speak up for me again, I was a bit surprised, but she quickly came to her senses. After all, if something went wrong at such a large auction because of her, Her family wouldn't let her off the hook. Sure enough, she turned around instantly, glaring at Serafina so fiercely that she dared not say another word. Then, with a warning tone, she said, "Serafina, as the heiress of the Whitlock family, such a minor figure isn't worth you pleading for him. I'm sure your parents wouldn't be happy either." After speaking, Isolde's expression softened. She gently patted Serafina's hand and said, "All right, go sit with Thaddeus. I'll handle this here." Thaddeus's eyes were filled with jealousy. He stepped forward and grabbed Serafina, who didn't want to leave. As he left, he made a mouth gesture at me. "Who do you think you are to compete with me? Someone as kind-hearted as Serafina has provoked these people. Just wait and see." I smiled slightly and adjusted my posture to feel more comfortable. Isolde turned her head and glanced at me with a hint of sarcasm in her eyes. "You'd better be careful next time. Otherwise, you might get into trouble for no reason." I didn't say anything and just looked at the time. Yun Jai and his old friends should be here soon. Isolde waved her hand dismissively, as if she thought I was just bluffing. "Let's delay it and deal with it according to the rules." Seeing all my men gathered around, my expression turned serious. "You'd better consider the consequences of angering me." Thaddeus, sitting beside me, swirled his wine glass and laughed mockingly. Dealing with you is as easy as crushing an ant," just as their hands pressed down on my shoulders. A voice full of authority rang out from the doorway. "Who dares to sit in the chairman's seat? You really don't know the rules." I found it boring and called out, "Old man, your men are really disobedient. If you had been any later, I would have gotten angry." Isolde looked terrified and glared at me angrily. "How dare you be disrespectful to the family head?" At that moment, the old man at the front pushed through the crowd, saw my face, and his eyes widened in shock. He bowed respectfully to me and said in a trembling voice, "Chairman, why have you come?" The head of the Sinclair family approached obsequiously, adopting a humble posture. "Why didn't you tell us sooner? This seat has always been yours. A person as bold as you is truly one of a kind." I smiled slightly, listening to the old man's praise without responding. Cornelius wiped the sweat from his forehead and glared at Yun Shang. "My men were inconsiderate and offended you. I apologize on their behalf. All the items you have selected today will be my responsibility." These words caused everyone present to look surprised. Everyone knew that the Huaguo Merchants Association had a mysterious chairman. 10 years ago, Huaguo's business was primarily controlled by two major families, the Remington family and the Ma family. These two families dominated nearly every industry worth mentioning, leaving others with barely a crumb of profit. The chairman's emergence united consumers to rebel against them. He not only possessed extraordinary courage and decisiveness, but also exceptional business acumen. Once, he managed to attract $1 billion with just $1. It was precisely because of this that he drove the two companies out of Huaguo, leading to the emergence of the four great families and the prosperous commercial empire we see today. The chairman is a very low-key individual. Over the past 8 years, he has often lit lamps to pray for blessings. But now, aside from the heads of the four great families, virtually no one knows his true identity, not even his gender or age. However, no matter how low-key he is definitely not an ordinary deliveryman. In the end, Serafina blushed and couldn't help but say, "Grandpa Yun, I know you're kind-hearted and don't want anything to happen to him, but Alaric is just a delivery guy. His salary isn't that high. How could he be the chairman?" Cornelius was about to speak, but Thaddeus gave a mischievous smile and echoed the same doubt. "Exactly. Look at this young man. His face is greasy and his hands are rough. How could he possibly be a chairman living in comfort? Did you see wrong? Should we go check? If the chairman finds out you mistook him, will he expel the Sinclair family from the four great families?" Seeing Cornelius remain silent for a while, Thaddeus grew even more arrogant. "What's wrong? Everyone knows the Sinclair family relies on this auction to get by. Don't pretend." Cornelius leaned on his cane and coughed violently. "Cough, don't speak, you're from the Harrington family. You have no right to speak here." He glanced nervously at my expression. "Chairman, if these collectibles can bring you joy, it's our way of compensating you as descendants of the Sinclair family." I fiddled with the bank card in my hand, my face expressionless. "Money, I have plenty. I don't need your things. I'm just here to relax. Don't be nervous. You have something to hide, like how these collectibles came to be." Upon hearing this, Cornelius's beard tensed up, trembling slightly, and he signaled to the people around him. His assistant was very understanding and immediately asked everyone else to leave. The room fell deathly silent. Cornelius was so overcome with emotion that tears streamed down his face, and he knelt down. "Chairman, the Harrington family and the Whitlock family have gone too far. Out of these 99 collectibles, nearly half were forced into our collection by them. Our family is small, and our descendants often face difficulties. We can't possibly compete with those two powerful merchants, and we dare not get too close to them." I lowered my head and thought for a moment. Since business in Huaguo returned to normal and was placed under regulation, everyone has been competing fairly, and no single family has ever dominated the market. To decentralize power, I changed the annual meeting to a quadrennial one. This year happens to be the Chamber of Commerce's general meeting, but after 4 years, has the Sinclair family been marginalized so severely? Thinking about the Harrington and Whitlock families, I secretly investigated. Their attitude toward me is as if I don't even exist. Rest assured, as long as I'm still chairman, I'll never allow the market to descend into cutthroat competition. This time, I came down to the market to gather information. As for whether it's right or wrong, I'll get to the bottom of it. After hearing this, Cornelius sighed in relief and wiped away his tears. My heart was heavy, but I helped Cornelius to his feet, my expression once again cold and impassive. The heads of the Whitlock and Harrington families were about to arrive. I'd go meet them. Outside the private room, Thaddeus leaned against the door, listening intently, but the voices were too faint to make out. His expression was grim, his eyes filled with seriousness. "Serafina, you think Alaric is really the chairman Cornelius mentioned?" Serafina seemed distracted and replied softly, "I don't know." Thaddeus didn't notice her state and clenched his fists. "If that's not the case, the Sinclair family is being too bold, daring to impersonate the chairman like that. If it's true, then both of us have offended him, and will definitely face punishment. Worse still, if the chairman has been swayed by the Sinclair family patriarch, the domestic market could undergo significant changes." Serafina felt a bit irritated. Only now did she realize she had been a bit rude earlier, which wasn't like her at all. Could she really have been swayed by my sweet words? Has she truly fallen in love with me? At this thought, she suddenly felt no aversion but rather a hint of anticipation that I might become the chairman. After all, I love her so much. I would certainly support the Whitlock family. This would allow the Whitlock family to advance further. Thaddeus excitedly muttered to himself. "Serafina, should we act first? After all, this is our place. No one will know. If he really dies," Serafina snapped back to reality, her mind already made up. Though her face still bore a smile, her eyes betrayed a hint of disdain. "Thaddeus, do whatever you want, but don't drag me into it. You really think things will be that simple with the Sinclair family involved? You're being so foolish." She didn't say the last 2 words, sparing him some dignity. She couldn't help but feel a bit annoyed inside. If it weren't for Benedict Whitlock insisting on an alliance with the Harrington family, she wouldn't have to deal with such a person. Thinking about this, she gently stroked her stomach. The child inside didn't know who its father was, but based on the date, it was very likely hers. Thaddeus fidgeted impatiently, but with the situation unclear, he could do nothing. He could only return to room 102 with a sense of loss. And the 2 rooms that had been vacant for 8 years had been partitioned off. After the brief incident, the auction officially began, and the waiters entered the private rooms to provide service. In the center of every private room was a large circular platform. The best location was Room 101, which had always been where the mysterious customer lit the lanterns. I sold changed into a cheongsam and personally explained the items to everyone. The experts below had already begun to notice something amiss. Why was someone from the Sinclair family personally explaining the items today? There must be someone important here. Didn't you hear the 3 bell rings that lit up the sky lanterns today? This is a rare sight indeed. Wow, that person must be so rich. This is the largest auction in the country in recent years, with starting bids for some items reaching millions. The total value of the sky lanterns alone must be at least tens of billions. Don't you know? Who else could receive such attention besides the chairman? A newly minted billionaire family, confused, asked, "Chairman? What chairman?" "The chairman of the 4 great merchants' guilds, of course. The chairman is the faith of everyone. Without him, we wouldn't have our wealth today. The chairman of the Chamber of Commerce. Who dares to bid against him? Bidding would just mean offending him." Thaddeus clearly sensed the other's hesitation and sneered. "These people are so cowardly. They won't even dare to test the waters. They won't bid because they don't know the situation. I'll go ahead then." Serafina furrowed her brows slightly but ultimately didn't try to stop him. Thaddeus finally realized that Serafina wasn't interested in him, and a sudden wave of anger washed over him. "You're so rich, aren't you? Then I'll bid 100 million. I saw Thaddeus's bid on the tablet, pressed the earpiece, and whispered, "No matter how much you bid, I'll add 250,000 on top of that." Yun Shang smiled after hearing this and gave 102 a meaningful look. She spoke slowly. 102 bids 100 million. 101 bids 100 million and 250. Thaddeus exploded upon hearing the number. He threw the tablet on the ground and stomped on it several times. "How infuriating! Alaric, are you trying to embarrass me?" He was truly foolish. His entire family was not very intelligent. Serafina looked disgusted, and her resolve to call off the engagement grew even stronger. Thaddeus was completely lost in his own thoughts. He must be mocking me behind my back. As he spoke, he picked up the tablet again and tapped it a few times. Yun Shang smiled calmly and said, 102 is offering 200 million, and 101 price is 200 million and 250, 225 million. Once, 225 million, twice. The people below were initially confused but gradually began to catch on. Is the chairman accusing the Harrington family? Thaddeus gritted his teeth and raised the price again. Doesn't he like to raise the price? Then I'll bid 10 billion, bid 102 at 10 billion, bid 101 at 10 billion and 250 million. Thaddeus wanted to keep bidding, but Serafina pressed her hand down on his. She said coldly, "Do you really have that much money? Aren't you afraid your father will punish you?" Thaddeus clenched his teeth but eventually let go. 10 billion 250 once, 10 billion 250 twice, 3 times sold, after final confirmation. The first item was finally sold. By the time the 10th item came up, Thaddeus should have been the last to bid. Thaddeus was furious, feeling as though he had been bitten, and several times he wanted to rush in. But outside were bodyguards armed with equipment, and his men dared not move. He could only return angrily. Serafina, however, was intently staring at the chat records from the past 3 months on her phone, her expression deeply engrossed. Every message was filled with genuine care and love. The past 3 months with me had been the happiest time of her life. She no longer had to worry about family matters, tiptoe through the workplace, or pretend to be someone she wasn't. She could freely enjoy the things she loved, drink milk tea, eat cake, and indulge in barbecue and spicy hot pot. She had once had a period of infatuation, but she understood that love wasn't everything in life. She still wanted to prove she was worthy, so she and her mother could live a stable life. Her self-respect and pride prevented her from loving a man who couldn't help her. Things were going well now. I was a son-in-law who met the family's standards. Bang! The door was pushed open, interrupting her thoughts. The sweet expression on her face didn't have time to fade before Benedict saw it. His expression was stern as he slapped her across the face without hesitation, shouting, "You ungrateful daughter! Don't think I don't know what you're doing. What are you doing associating with these good-for-nothing people? Now you've caused trouble again. How can you be trusted with important matters?" Her face burned with pain, and she could even taste the metallic taste of blood in her mouth. A fleeting look of displeasure flashed across Serafina's eyes, but she quickly looked up and resumed her obedient, proper young lady demeanor. "Yes, father, but the chairman is right next door. Should we go see him?" Upon hearing the word chairman, Benedict's eyes narrowed instantly, and his face filled with surprise. The chairman? I didn't receive any message from the chairman. Benedict had been the family head for many years, so he only panicked for a moment before regaining his composure. "Serafina, are you serious? I only heard someone ringing the bell, but I didn't hear that the chairman was coming." Benedict hesitated. Although the annual general meeting is about to convene, the chairman shouldn't be coming to the north, should he? That's too coincidental. Hearing this, Thaddeus secretly rejoiced and stepped forward, saying, "Benedict, I also think that guy doesn't look like the chairman at all. He's disheveled and looks like an ordinary person who makes a living delivering takeout. No one knows what's really going on in 101 right now. It's still up to the Sinclair family to decide. We still have to rely on our uncle to expose the Sinclair family's conspiracy." Serafina saw Thaddeus looking so preoccupied and couldn't help but feel even more annoyed. Benedict heard this, and his expression became complicated. He pondered for a moment. All right, if someone is really impersonating the chairman, that's absolutely unacceptable. Serafina bowed slightly and said with a cold smile, "Since they want to break the rules, let them do as they please." Don't think she didn't know Benedict had been secretly supporting that despicable bastard all along. If he angered the chairman, it would only give her a chance to rise to power. Benedict waited a moment, and the head of the Harrington family arrived as well. The two exchanged glances, their eyes filled with coldness, then led the gathered crowd toward room 101. "Catch the impostor." Cornelius frowned and said, "Chairman, what's going on? Have they lost their minds they dare to act here? They are not afraid of trouble." I continued eating sunflower seeds, auctioning off the collectibles through my earpiece, and casually remarked, "Perfect. What's there to fear?" Cornelius paced anxiously, sweat beading on his forehead. "The people at the door can hold out for a few more minutes at most." "Chairman, you're alone here. It's not safe." "Don't worry, old man. Sit down and have some of your fine tea. It would be a shame to waste it." Seeing that I remained calm, Cornelius gradually settled down. "If the chairman isn't afraid, I have nothing to fear." The aroma of tea filled the air as the sound of intense fighting echoed from outside the door. I glanced at the time. It was almost time to leave. I got up to open the door. Outside, it was chaos. Standing there were two people I hadn't seen in 4 years. "Benedict Whitlock, Montgomery Harrington. What are you doing? We live in a civilized society. Fighting and killing are not good things, right?" When they saw my face, their eyes lit up. They subconsciously wanted to greet me, but when they saw Cornelius slowly approaching from behind, the two exchanged glances, their eyes betraying a hint of cruelty. "Who is this little brat? How dare he impersonate the chairman? Is the Sinclair family trying to go bankrupt?" Cornelius instinctively tried to defend me, but I raised my hand to stop him. Leaning against the door frame, I spoke slowly. "Benedict Whitlock, how did the delivery industry become your personal domain? Just because you can do it, does that mean others can't?" Benedict Whitlock's expression suddenly changed, growing even more agitated. "Someone is impersonating the chairman. Come help me." Serafina's eyes filled with concern as she tried to step forward. I shook my head and sighed. "Look at your thuggish behavior. If I hadn't personally delivered takeout for 3 months, I wouldn't even know what you think people are. You've mastered the algorithm to the fullest, but it's all just to exploit people's time. How many have died from overwork? You're not just exploiting delivery riders. You're exploiting merchants too. The words hung in the air, leaving everyone speechless. I looked at the man with the pale face, who seemed a bit shaken. Montgomery, what do you think? The Whitlock family took 80% of the profits. How much did you make? You think helping him will bring any good outcome for the Harrington family? Thaddeus had noticed Montgomery's hesitation from the start. Seeing my confidence, he couldn't help but step forward. Alaric, what are you so proud of? What's so great about being a mediocre chairman? Before Thaddeus could finish, a voice interrupted him. You brat, this isn't your place to speak. Please step aside. After Montgomery finished speaking, he turned to me with a respectful expression. Chairman, as long as you give the order, the Harrington family will fully support you. Benedict looked shocked. Montgomery, how dare you do this? He could only watch as the situation was turned upside down in an instant. It was only then that he realized my power, and his face turned pale. Fear surged up inside him, unable to be suppressed. But just then, he noticed Serafina standing in the corner and his eyes lit up. Chairman, haven't you always liked little girls? It was my mistake for forcing her to break up with you. Now everything is arranged so perfectly. Isn't this a coincidence? Why not consider marrying Serafina? Hearing this, Serafina's face lit up with a hint of hope, but I didn't even glance at him. With a casual wave of my hand, a group of enforcers rushed in and took him away. No one dared to speak, and the atmosphere grew tense. Everyone was worried that they might be the next unlucky one. Only Serafina kept staring at me, but I let her down. Serafina seemed deeply shaken, staggering a few steps forward, her lips trembling as she tried to say something. Looking at the people present, she chose to remain silent. I smiled and waved my hand. There were many items I liked today. Let's all stay and enjoy the festivities. Montgomery stepped forward and said politely, if the chairman likes them, I'll cover the cost of the lanterns today. Then he added, this is also to make up for the inconvenience we caused you earlier. I replied casually, sure. Thaddeus stood aside with a pained expression, feeling as if he had eaten something unpleasant. Many of these collectibles were items he had arbitrarily inflated the prices of, and now all the trouble had fallen on him. But this was only the beginning. After everyone had left, only Serafina and I remained in the room. I took a sip of tea and ignored her. After a while, Serafina couldn't hold back any longer and ran to me with tears in her eyes. Alaric, why didn't you tell me who you really are? Why did you hide it from me? Facing her accusations, I didn't feel much inside. In the past, I truly wished I could pour out everything in my heart to her, just so she wouldn't be angry. But everything between us wasn't real. Actually, when she met me, I was just a delivery guy. She said she liked living a simple life with ordinary people, with only love and no ulterior motives. With red eyes, she said that rich men are easily corrupted. At that time, I felt deeply sorry for her, sensing that her family background had left her deeply wounded. So I had always protected her innocence, kindness, and beauty. I had planned to reveal my true identity to her when I proposed. I had even decided to put all my assets in her name, so this foolish girl wouldn't worry that I might change my heart. But I was truly foolish. Everything was a lie. She was the high-born Miss Whitlock, and her words were nothing but sweet nothings. She said I was deceiving her, but in truth, she was deceiving me as well. Seeing that I didn't respond, she thought I was still angry. She spoke softly. Alaric, I'm pregnant. The child is yours. Please don't be angry with me anymore. You heard it yourself. It was my father who wouldn't let us be together. After saying this, she actually shed tears. I was forced to do this. I truly love you. Hearing the words I had hoped to hear 3 hours ago, I felt confused. It felt like none of the bad things had ever happened. It felt like we were still in that rented apartment. a happy couple, dreaming of a bright future together. I don't blame her for choosing someone else. I just think that love motivated by self-interest is so hollow. I don't need it. Serafina, you're so good at playing the victim. Even your expression now is enough to make someone feel sorry for you. You could have chosen to abandon me, even if it meant turning to Thaddeus with a heavy heart. Now you're willing to lower the pride of the Whitlock family's eldest daughter to try to keep me. Do you really love me? How much of this love is genuine? The truth is, I love my own status. I opened compartment 101, bent down, and picked up the Margaret emerald ring that Serafina had slapped away. I gently wiped the dust off it. Serafina, this gemstone represents all my love for you. It can open my secret treasure vault and even symbolize my identity. Serafina was moved to tears, her face flushing slightly as she finally shed a single tear. She felt a deep ache in her heart. Alaric, she froze, wanting to reach for the ring, but I quickly pulled my hand back and coldly said, "You don't deserve it." Serafina's face showed panic, no longer the noble appearance she had before, and she stammered, "Alaric, you can't say that to me. I love you too, but I can't just love you." But when she saw my cold gaze, she despaired and lowered her head, whispering, "I understand." Finally, I said, "If it were my child, I would never shirk my responsibility, but that's all I can say." Serafina's face looked dejected as she staggered out the door. 4 years later, at a Merchants Guild meeting, I saw Serafina again. Although the Whitlock family had suffered a major blow, Serafina acted decisively and worked hard to stabilize the situation. She wore a sleek red dress, and her vibrant red lips made one dare not approach her. The image of that elegant and well-behaved noblewoman still lingered in my memory. Thaddeus, who refused to accept Serafina's rejection of the engagement, caused a big commotion and was disowned by the Harrington family. Now he works as a deliveryman. The meeting had ended. I nodded to everyone and left the conference room. In the hallway, I unexpectedly bumped into a 4-year-old child. I was a bit surprised and picked him up. The little baby cried, "Uncle is bad, I want my mom." I didn't know why, but I couldn't resist poking her face. It was soft and incredibly cute. "Who's your little one?" Just then, a startled voice called out from behind me, "Cordelia Whitlock, where did you go?" "Mom's been looking for you." My hands trembled and I put the child down, scratching my head awkwardly. "Is this your child?" Serafina replied calmly, "Yes." Before I could react, the two had already walked far away. I sighed helplessly and shook my head. "Never mind."